Another week of wrestling is in the books, and that means it is time for your weekly Wednesday wrap-up edition of the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. Let's not waste any more time. The bomb drops now. Hello and welcome to this Wednesday edition of the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast, the show that is for the fans, by the fans. I am your phenomenal host, Mr. Podcasting, Chris Belcher, and joining me back from his Aloha vacation, not really, he didn't really go to Hawaii, the whole podcasting show, my brother from another mother, Jared Justice, is back with us. What's the haps, man? You don't look like you got a big tan or anything.
Are you being sarcastic? My face looks red like the last of the Mohicans over here. I don't know if the camera picks it up, but yeah, man, I got quite a bit of sun. It was a pretty good time, pretty good vacation with the family. We hadn't done it in many years, and you kind of get to that point where you're kind of more like friends with your parents, and
Sure.
So that's kind of where I'm at now. And so it was a very good vacation, man.
That's awesome. Glad you had a good time. We had a good time without you. Mr. Andy York filled in for you last Wednesday. And we're going to get to kind of what Andy and I talked about here in just a few minutes. But of course, we got to take care of some housekeeping before we do that. Make sure you follow us on social media. We are at PBW Podcast on all the major platforms. I'm going to throw my Twitter and Instagram handle up right there. It is on the bottom at Chris Belcher 24. Yeah, it's to your right.
I'll master that eventually.
I just know it's down where? Down there. Oh, this is off to a riveting start. All right, at Chris Belcher 24 on Twitter and Instagram. And Jared is on the Instagram at JWJust01. I threw it up there for you. If you're watching the video version of this podcast on YouTube, we appreciate you doing that. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. That way you know every time a new episode comes up. It'll pop up on your phone, give you a notification. If you like your podcast audio in the more traditional format, we are available on all the platforms. Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, you name it, we're there. So make sure you check us out, subscribe, give us an old 5-star review, buy a t-shirt from us, prowrestlingtees.com/PBW podcast. We have new content dropping on all of those platforms every Monday and Wednesday. And if you forget all of those things and you're watching us on YouTube, we've got a fancy little ticker down where? Down there at the bottom of the screen, and that will remind you of all of those things that I just went through. So, you like that little reference there? All right.
Yes.
So, man, let's get into it. All Elite Wrestling, AEW. Andy and I really went in depth on some AEW topics last week.
And I'm sure you all did.
Oh my goodness. By the way, I'm gonna disclaimer for everybody here. Jared and I just got finished recording our episode that comes out next week. And it was a fantastic interview with a fantastic guy and a fantastic wrestler. So Jared and I are a little hyped up right now. So next Monday, I'm going to tell you all about that at the end of the show, but you're going to want to make sure you check that episode out. We're a little hyped up right now, so we apologize in advance.
You can't just get hype. You've got to stay hype.
Oh, my gosh.
I like caffeine whenever I go work out. That's one of the things you'll hear me and Bo talk about. And I went to work out for about 2 hours, and I had a lot of caffeine. And then I did the podcast. So, yeah.
You're feeling good.
I am, yeah.
All right, man. So last week in your absence, Andy and I talked a lot of AEW. We hit on some various things, and you and I have not talked about AEW on season 2, the comeback tour of the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. So I feel that we need to do that. We touched on Chris Jericho and his impact with AEW. No pun intended. But we touched on that, but I want to get your thoughts on some of the stuff that Andy and I talked about last week, as well as kind of what's going on in AEW currently. You were really high on AEW when they first started. I want to get your thoughts on kind of where you sit right now with the current things that are going on.
Oh man, where do I start? So let me try to get my screen right. That's probably where I should start. So man, I had such high hopes for AEW, and you know that. Me and you and Jason had all had several conversations, and me and Jason, I think we had just been to like some wrestling events, and then we went to actually go watch AEW. And prior to seeing them live, me and Jason were pretty hyped, and so was Brad. And his wife. I mean, everybody, with the exception of you, kind of thought that AEW was the second coming. And I mean, it's not even the third, fourth, fifth, or 10th.
Can I borrow the phrase and say, I told you so?
Yes. And I admit when I'm wrong. And I was wrong. I was just hoping for a more 1990, or you could even start at the 87 to probably 93 before Hogan came in. Version of NWA, WCW stories that we cared about, but it was just, two men, two women, whatever the case may be, that didn't like each other for some reason that they have given us. And that they would get in there and just beat the crap out of each other. And that was riveting television whenever WCW was doing it right. I loved it. I couldn't wait to watch it on Saturday morning, Saturday night's main event, or what was it? WCW Saturday night.
Yep.
And it's just not. They act like that they're going to be basically the second good version of WCW, which is what so many of us were led to believe. And they use some names. They have some pay-per-view names that they do like their little shows at now and call it Bash at the Beach or whatever,
Right.
But it's not. It's as bad or worse than WCW in the dying days.
Right.
That's what they should have branded it as. Dying days, WCW. Here we are, AEW.
Well, that's what I was going to say, man, is like we expected late 80s, early 90s WCW, but we got late 90s, early 2000s WCW. I mean, I don't know about you, but in watching AEW over the last, 6 months or so that I've kind of kept up with it, it's gotten a lot more like pushing the envelope as far as crude goes. I'm not saying that, they can't have attitude or they can't, whatever, but it's definitely like, I don't know. I can't put my finger on it, but it just, I don't know. Like to them, 2 + 2 = 5, not 4. And I don't get that. Does that make sense?
So today's world has changed. You have to be so PC and you have to worry about offending everybody. That's just a fact of life. You almost can't joke unless you're very careful about it.
And let me preface what you're saying by me saying that it's not offensive to me. I'm just saying that I felt like somewhere they took a hard right turn.
Well, there is, like you talked about being crude or lewd, or there's doing that in a cool way. And then there's doing that in a way that's just doing it to be rude or crude that really doesn't make sense. It's not needed. It's not funny. Right. It's not humorous. And that's where they're at. They're not doing anything cool. They're not keeping up with the times. I mean, cool probably isn't even a cool word now. Things have changed, and they haven't adapted. They like we've said, they went back to 2000 WCW. So
yep. One of the things that I thought they would take advantage of is, Andy and I touched on this last week, is their partnership with Impact. We saw this past Sunday, Kenny Omega defeated Rich Swann for the Impact Championship. Kenny Omega holds both world titles now. And we've seen the Good Brothers, Gallows and Anderson, come over to AEW and have done some stuff. But really and truly, that's all we've seen in this partnership. I honestly expected more. Go ahead.
If you believe in the theory of evolution, and I don't believe that theory is completely correct, but if you look at animals today, look at humans. we have evolved and we have adapted to things. And if you don't evolve or adapt, then your product becomes stale. And that's kind of what's happened. Do you know why that poop, feces, crap smells bad? Or vomit, or a lot of times things that are not good for you. It's because that over the years, as humans, we've adapted to these smells that tell us, don't eat this, this could kill you. Now,
Right.
whenever I see TNA come on the screen or in its new version, that's what I get. It's like I'm smelling crap, something saying, go away, got to get away from this. I can just see it on the TV screen, the picture, like their little logo. And now AEW has associated themselves with this crap, literally. I mean, why would you do that?
I don't know. Like I'm not going to go as far as you in saying that Impact is crap, because I don't necessarily think that it is.
If I see it, I want to vomit. But go ahead.
Well, I mean, to each his own. I don't necessarily think that it's that bad. I just think that there was so much potential there between AEW and Impact, like having a bunch more guys cross over and some matchups that would have been, I would like to see Eddie Edwards, who is in Impact, in a street fight against John Moxley. Like, I want to see that. I want to see Moose go up against Lance Archer. I want to see like these matchups that now can happen, but they're not. So maybe they have some other plans down the road. Maybe it's a slow burn. I don't know, but
does it seem like they're building to anything like that?
No,
maybe like doing the old WWF versus WCW show that WWF claimed they put on, but really it wasn't that good. Like, are they building towards something?
I don't think so. I would have thought they would have already had it by now.
Right.
But like, to me, like you're wasting time here. I know that the wrestling's not going anywhere. You got all the time in the world. Oh, next year we're gonna have this big thing and we're gonna slow burn it for a year. Yeah, I don't get that. I don't get it. I'm not one of those wrestling fans though that like needs everything right now. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying give me something. Give me something. Kenny Omega's been world champion since January. It's been 4 months. And the only thing we've seen is him go over to the other show and win the world title. Okay. We predicted that after he won the AEW world title. We've seen his buddies, the Good Brothers, come over. Okay. Again, we predicted that. And we've got nothing else. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. So, I mean, if they're not building to anything, then yeah, I don't know how that you can have these two wrestling groups or federations or territories, whatever you want to call them now,
right.
That think that they're legitimately second to WWE, and they put their heads together and they still can't come up with something better. I mean, maybe I am biased. Like I said, I listen to podcasts, and you can't listen to podcasts and not hear about AEW and Impact. You're hearing about it right now, folks.
That's exactly right.
So I hear about a lot of this stuff, but like I can't make myself watch it if it's like Impact. Now AEW I can watch, but Impact, man, I just can't do it, and they've made me that way. And so it just doesn't make sense. I don't know.
It's tough. It's tough. I follow Matt Cardona and Brian Myers on there, and I literally will fast forward through everything else except their angle. That's it.
But they're big into wrestling figures, and so that's probably why you watch them. Look in your background,
Their ring is right behind me, behind my microphone that the fans can't see. I've got an autographed Edgehead figure of theirs. I've got an autographed poster of theirs over there. So yes. So I follow those guys. One more thing about AEW before we steer ourselves in another direction here. We found out between the episode that Andy and I did and now that the Blood and Guts match on May the 5th, Dynamite, Pinnacle versus the Inner Circle. Yes. It's going to be a standalone special. That's going to be the only match on the show. And if you go back and listen to last Wednesday's episode, shout out to Mr. Andy York, because he called that. He said that they needed to have the one match special, and that needed to be that. And they're going to do it. I think it's going to be really interesting. My question to you is, yes, the match is going to be really good. Yes, it's going to be unlike anything we've seen before. It's going to be War Games turned up a notch. They got to redeem themselves from the death match explosion that was not. Okay. They got to somehow redeem themselves, and they're going to do it on national television. My question to you is, why on God's green earth is this not on a pay-per-view? Why do you let the ratings
The ratings, pal. The ratings.
Yeah. You're letting the ratings rule this instead of making people pay to watch this match. Why is that?
Well, they're not in the ratings. I couldn't resist that.
Wait. You went there. Hi, Sylvia. Yeah. This Jerry. Oh, yeah. Oh. Well,
I can tell you how many times I've listened to this.
Vince wanted, Vince wanted me to call about, we're in the car. Yeah. Vince wanted me to call about the ratings. Yeah. All right. Well, bye.
Well, the ratings, pal, the ratings.
Oh, they're not in yet. So, Bruce Pritchard's story about riding in the car with Jerry Jarrett, please go back and listen to, I think it's episode 7, Steroid Trial.
The steroid trial, yes.
Yep. I think is where he tells that story. So go back and listen to that so you get the full effect of that story. Anyway, go ahead, answer my question.
Where was I?
We were talking about the ratings, pal. The ratings.
So, I think that just what you said, they basically got blue balls on national TV. Something didn't go off right, ladies and gentlemen, and that was the explosion. And so now I think that they have to redeem themselves. Right. And so they're giving this match away. So I answered your question. Here's my question, and I've heard this speculated, but I haven't heard any answers. So you probably haven't either. So I'm curious to hear, since nobody's really talking about it or making big predictions, how do you think they will put their spin on the War Games? You know, NXT took the top off. So what do you think that they will do?
I think that, do you remember the Johnny Gargano, Adam Cole third fall match where they had the cage that came down with all the weapons tied to it and all that other kind of stuff?
Yes.
I think that's what we're going to see. I think it's going to, I did read one thing, because there was this picture that they showed on Dynamite, sort of like a mock-up of what it's going to look like. And it looks very much like the NXT War Games. I'm not sure if there's a top on it or not. I think there is. But from what I have gathered, there's going to be room on the outside to work on the outside of the ring. So like a double Hell in a Cell with weapons on the side of it is my guess.
So, I mean, that sounds very intriguing. So do you think that we will have anybody jump from the cell-like structure without the top into the ring? Since, I mean, if you're picturing, you know, a double Hell in the Cell with no top, then
I don't know if there's a top or not. I think there is, but I'm not totally sure. I think that either Sammy Guevara or one of Santana and Ortiz, one of those three guys will do it.
Now, who's actually in this match? Lay this out here for us.
Yep. So it's the Inner Circle. So it's Jericho, Sammy Guevara, Jake Hager, Jack Swagger, and Santana and Ortiz.
And they're the faces.
Yes. Okay. Against the Pinnacle, which is MJF, Shawn Spears, Wardlow, and the Revival, FTR.
So what's your opinion on Wardlow? I remember seeing him whenever I still followed AEW some. If you want the history, ladies and gentlemen, about Smoky Mountain Wrestling, WWF, WCW, I can give it to you. But when we get to some of this stuff, I just, you know, I don't know. But I remember seeing Wardlow and thinking, man, he has the look. He's got a cool name. It's almost like a version of like Warlord back in the day or something. how is he doing? Where do you see him going? You're more up than what I am.
Well, I thought when they finally had his first match against Jake Hager, I thought that was a really good match. That was really solid. I've never been a huge Jake Hager fan, but I thought that match was really solid. When the Inner Circle, when MJF and Wardlow finally turned on the Inner Circle and the other guys showed up, I thought that because Wardlow was the one that was mauling Jericho. He's the one that busted Jericho open. He powerbombed Jericho off the stage. I thought they were going to go Wardlow Jericho, and Jericho was going to put him over and make him this big star. It's what I thought. It did not happen. It still may happen, but it didn't happen right off. So I'm not totally sure. I haven't seen enough of him to make a determination, honestly. Like, I don't know. He's only been in the ring once or twice, so I really couldn't tell you. I believe now. Correct. I may be wrong on this. So Andy and Jason, who are listening to this podcast, reach out to me and tell me that I'm wrong. He may not even be in the match. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure he is because it's 5-on-5. I don't know who the fifth guy would be though, because you got Spears and you got MJF and you got the Revival. It's not going to be Tully Blanchard, so I'm pretty sure that's going to be Wardlow. Mabel will be the third guy. Mabel's the third guy, not the fifth guy. So anyway, man, that's really a couple of topics on AEW. We could talk a whole lot more about a whole lot of other things because we've got various opinions about AEW and some of the crap that they've done. Do you have anything else to add about what's going on in AEW or what your thoughts are before we kind of go in another direction?
I mean, the only thing that I would say would be to look up some brands that you don't already know suck. There's good wrestling brands out there. CCW. How about you watch those and find some other brands of wrestling that you like? These two, they're just not doing it for me right now. I'll watch NXT, and that's kind of a new hip thing. But other than that, man, I'm going to go searching, and CCW is the first one I'm going to hit up.
Coastal Championship Wrestling, ladies and gentlemen. Find them on YouTube. More on that in just a little bit. But we transition to the world of the WWE Friday Night SmackDown this past week. We finally get the vignette that everybody's been waiting for. There was rumors floating around, rumor and innuendo, if you will, that he was released, that he was going to be released. He was going to ride out his contract. No, sir. No, ma'am. Welcome back to the fold, Aleister Black. What an incredible promo that he put together on SmackDown on Friday. It seems like he is back, which is awesome. He's still dark, but it looks like a really heel persona. Man, I'm excited just because Aleister Black, he's always one of those intriguing guys, both out of the ring and in the ring.
Man, he has such potential. I mean, he's like a more buff and, dare I say, more athletic version of CM Punk with those kicks that he can do and like incorporating. And I know that there's all kinds of, I'm going to sound stupid, but there's all kinds of different types of karate, jiu-jitsu, taekwondo, all those things that you can do, and I couldn't tell you which one's which. I watch UFC some, so that's where I get a lot of my basis, but I couldn't differentiate those. But man, he just seems like he's so versed in different skill sets. He can do high flying. He can do whatever type of mixed martial arts type stuff that he can do. He's a good wrestler. He's smooth. He's almost like a Ricky Steamboat, dare I say, with like how smooth his moves are. And
I like that. That's good.
They just took him off TV. And so I'm very glad to see him back. And obviously he's been a little repackaged, it seems. I don't know how much yet, but I'm just glad he's back.
I don't think it's going to be a whole lot. I really think that because they had the dragon stuff, they still had the candles, and he was still wearing black and all this other stuff. I really feel like it's going to be a mixture of Aleister Black, but given more mic time and more storytelling behind his character, because I think that's what was missing with Aleister Black for a while. Everybody wanted him on the main roster, but we didn't know why. Now I think. Go ahead.
If if they can, I'm sure it's not him that's in
Right.
control, but if they can find that sweet spot that they keep searching for with Bray Wyatt, and we thought that they had it with The Fiend, of storytelling, but not talking about nonsense that people can't understand. Like you have to sit there and go, what is he trying to say there? And then you just don't care before you know it.
Right.
That's what happens with Bray. But if they can find that sweet spot, like they have with like The Undertaker, even Mordecai back in the day. I don't know how many people remember Mordecai when he had a shirt. Just in remembrance of Mordecai. He was interesting, and he almost had like that gothic type feel. He never went anywhere. I don't know why. I think it was because he was a crappy worker. If I remember what I read at the time, nothing much was ever said. Right. But he has a cool character. If they can just hit that sweet spot, man, he'll be money.
I think that sweet spot may be something that Mark Henry brought up on Busted Open Radio over the weekend, because he said it would be awesome if WWE brought back Zelina Vega and paired her with Aleister Black. And he credited that too. He said this could be very much like the pairing of Scarlett and Karrion Kross. If you play off something like that, put Zelina Vega with Aleister, that could work.
See, I basically read or heard, and I couldn't tell you where I got it from. I go to Raja wrestling website, SE Scoops. I listen to Sam Roberts, and then just like the shows that Big Guy does, Conrad. So those are my sources. And I remember it being basically delivered as almost factual, that it was suggested that Zelina be paired with Aleister before that she was axed, and they still axed her.
Interesting. Well, I don't know what their status is and all that kind of stuff, but maybe they'll be able to work something out, because that would be a really cool pairing, especially because they really are a pair. Let's move into the main event scene on SmackDown. Again, we're just kind of hitting some spots here from the show. Next week, it looks like it's going to be Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan for the Universal Championship live on SmackDown. And if Daniel Bryan loses, he's off SmackDown.
Man.
Which is really interesting, especially because of the stage of the career that he's in. But at the same time, it looks like we're building to a Roman Reigns and Cesaro match, which will be really cool, I think. How do you feel about that and the way they're kind of getting there?
So it's funny that you say, how happy are we about Aleister Black coming back? And then we go to how sad are we that potentially, again, if you read the current news, the dirt sheets, it looks like that Bryan has not signed a new contract. And he is wanting to do work with like Japan possibly, or some other wrestling organizations. And so what they're doing with him is supposedly, possibly, potentially working him out of storylines where that he gets taken off of SmackDown, and maybe he goes to Raw or something. I mean, maybe it's not over, but it sure seems like that they're pushing him to sign that contract and he's not doing it, and that might be affecting things.
Well, I mean, he's been very vocal about wanting to go home and be a full-time dad. He's already working as a backstage producer and writer and that sort of thing. So it's, like you said, it's public knowledge that Bryan either wants out or wants something different, or is ready to wind down a full-time career, basically. If he doesn't sign a new contract with WWE, he could do one-offs in whatever company, Japan, what have you, and it not lock him into anything. So I think that's kind of what he's looking for. And that was my first thought when I heard that this match was going to happen and what the stipulation was. Like, well, this is perfect for Bryan. You know, maybe he rides off into the sunset after this match and then he comes back for a couple of one-offs. I don't know. But it's definitely intriguing, especially that they're putting this on SmackDown and not waiting to the pay-per-view in 2 weeks.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think it's possible that that Bryan, at least they might kind of put him on standby for a bit, but we'll see what happens. All
right, you are listening to the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Chris Belcher. You can follow me at Chris Belcher24 on all of the social media sites. Make sure that you follow the show at PBW Podcast on all your social media sites. Buy a t-shirt, prowrestlingtees.com/PBW Podcast. New content drops every Monday and Wednesday. Of course, I am here with Mr. Old School. Aloha, Mr. Vacation. I'll come up with something. Jared Justice is back with us this week. We're talking all things current product. Let's move to Monday Night Raw, man. The main event side of there, we just finished talking about SmackDown. The main event side on Monday Night Raw has a new face in it as well. Last week, it was announced that Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley, Bob, would go one-on-one for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania Backlash. Now Braun Strowman has been added to the mix. Triple threat match coming up at the pay-per-view. What are your thoughts on Braun Strowman being added to the match?
I guess my question would be why. I do think they're trying to push Braun as a monster again. And that's something that's going to be hard to get back because they pushed him as a monster. They've had him pull down things and lift up things and all this crazy stuff. But then they've always derailed. That's one of his things, like the big train move that he does where he runs around the ring and hits somebody. They've derailed that train.
Right.
And I think they're trying to push him back to being a heel and hoping that he can be like Kane and just keep making comebacks and hold his how would you say it? How legit that he is. And I just don't think Braun can do that. I don't think they can do that with Braun.
Well, I think to add to your point, I think one of the reasons he was added to this match is maybe the fans don't want to see another one-on-one match between Lashley and Drew. And I personally would not want to see a one-on-one match between Lashley and Braun. Or really Braun and Drew for that matter. So you stick them all in there together. You got three powerhouses. You kind of mask some of the weaknesses there, and you use that storytelling. Braun can run over both of them, and it looks way cooler than just one of them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I guess I would have more interest now that you put it like that and seeing the three of them just thrown into a hodgepodge instead of, one-on-one with any of the three.
Right. So, and what better way to build Braun back as a monster is having to run over both of them. Now, does he win the match? No, probably not.
That's the problem, I think.
Right. Well, yep, that's true. But I would say he doesn't take the pin either. I would say that Drew takes the L in this match.
Really?
Yep.
So what do you think they're going to do with Drew?
I don't know.
What's going on there?
I don't know. I just don't think this is the time for him to win the title back. I think they're pushing Lashley. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure what they're waiting on. And to answer your question, I don't know with Drew, man. I really don't. I don't have a good answer for that. I didn't think he should have won the title at WrestleMania, which he didn't. That was fine, but I don't know what to do with him afterwards. I would have said go to SmackDown and challenge Roman Reigns. That's what I would have done, but maybe that match is too big for the time being.
Yeah, a lot. That was kind of the talk. If you listen to podcasts post Mania, was that everybody was thinking that's what was going to happen. Yeah. And now it just looks like they just keep beating Drew. So I don't know.
I don't know. I have no idea. Another thing that I don't have any idea about, and I really need you to weigh in on this, bro, because I don't know how I feel. Randy Orton and Matt Riddle as a tag team. We saw this past Monday on Raw. We saw them go one-on-one last week. Now they're an RK Bro tag team. Can you please give me some positivity in this, because I can't find any.
There is none. I
don't think so.
I mean, I guess at some point you're going to, of course, have Orton RKO him, and that's just what Randy does. And so then I guess you can have them fight. Maybe it means more. I don't know. That's all.
Well, just a quick follow-up. I was thinking about this as I was listening to our Chris Jericho episode today. Yes, I am that nerd that listens back to our stuff. I can't help it. But anyway, I was listening to our Chris Jericho episode today, and we talked about if Chris Jericho makes a run back in the WWE, which, by the way, that's a really good episode. All you who are listening, if you didn't listen to it, go back and listen to it. It's fun. If he makes another run in WWE, who could retire him? Randy Orton's the guy we forgot.
That's true.
That would be a good one because Randy Orton and Chris Jericho never really had a big, solid program.
Yeah, I was sitting here thinking, I don't remember Jericho eating an RKO. Have we seen that?
I'm sure it's been like a one-off or something, but nothing that has, nothing that I think has like any big time feud or anything.
Right. Yeah, I mean that would be interesting.
I think that'd be very interesting.
Or a punt kick to the head. That'd be pretty cool. That's
great. A punt kick. Yeah, that'd be great. One other thing that I want to hit on Monday Night Raw, because there wasn't a whole lot to me that happened.
I have to say this. We need a shirt. Punt tick. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
No problem.
Thank you for that. That shirt can hang right alongside of your very loud, obnoxious, terrible shirt too. We selling those for 15 cents?
We got to make a profit, pal. 20.
20 cents. Maybe Botavian will buy them all.
No, you can't have them. No, nobody can.
Anyway, one more thing on Monday Night Raw. We have really seen the last, I guess ever since right before WrestleMania, the demise of Retribution. I know Retribution started off as a really hot angle, especially because it came in right around the time the riots and stuff were happening. And then we finally get Retribution revealed as 4 people from NXT that we really didn't know a whole lot about. And then Mustafa Ali, I guess that's how they're pronouncing his name now, was their leader. And they've since kicked him out and they've all kind of gone their separate ways. And now we have Mace and T-Bar on Monday Night Raw as a tag team, which is no.
Lace and T-Bag, ladies and gentlemen. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Which is Dio Madden, who used to commentate on Monday Night Raw, and Dominic Dijakovic. That's the 2 guys that are, under those gimmicks.
Well, they acted like they had no idea who they were.
Right. Right. Well, that's
these people?
That's what I was getting ready to say. Like last week, Braun and Drew took their masks off of them. Well, this week they show up on Monday Night Raw with some sort of Road Warrior-esque paint on their face and no mask. Why after they unmask these guys, why don't they just have them go back to their original gimmick? Like Dijakovic, I mean, he didn't really have like a character per se, but that persona and that moveset and all that was really cool, I thought.
It got over. I mean, I liked it. Didn't I just see, not Mac, yeah, I guess it would be Matt Cardona. Didn't I just see pictures of him coming out with like a Road Warrior little, like, shoulder pad deal?
Yeah, so he's got this, it's like this, this long jacket kind of gimmick that isn't really a jacket. It doesn't have sleeves and it kind of buckles in the front, but it's not totally closed up. And I think it had like the last one he came out with at Rebellion had these big shoulder pad kind of things. So yeah, that's one of his jacket gimmicks. So yes.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe there was something to that, like where they had done the Road Warrior face paint and he had done like the shoulder pads. I
don't think there's anything to that, but Retribution, like, what was your opinion, I guess, of that gimmick to begin with? And now that they're decimated, like, wouldn't you just put them back in their original gimmick? Why try to continue this character when it's clear that the group's not going to ever come back?
Yeah, they would have been much better off if they had just never unmasked any of these people and just kind of acted like that never happened and just introduced them. So, I mean, but to your question, at first when this whole Retribution thing started, with like the riots and everything going on and stuff, I was very intrigued.
Sure, I think everybody was.
But at the same time, in my mind, I was thinking, where are they ever going to go with this? And how is anybody ever going to become a star out of this?
Yep, that's it.
It was very intriguing, but what do you do with it?
Right.
Clearly they don't know. So
right, clearly they did not know. That's true. All right, man. We hit some stories on Raw and on SmackDown. We talked a little bit about AEW. That's really going to do it for our show this week. But as always, I didn't do this last week with Andy because I gotta hand it over to you for this. High spots and turd sandwiches to wrap up the show, man. Give me something as far as action this week in wrestling that you would consider a turd sandwich. What did you not like? What just didn't resonate with you, I guess? Not necessarily that it was a turd, but what didn't resonate with you?
So maybe you can provide a little clarity on this. Because I watched a lot of SmackDown, but then I don't think I saw the main end. I think for some reason that Hulu or whatever I was watching just jumped to another video, and I was on the verge of sleep. But
come on, Hulu.
I know, right? But you had Jey Uso, and he was in a match. And then wasn't it Daniel Bryan and who was the other person? They both ended up just beating the crap out of him. Cesaro.
So it was Jey Uso and Seth Rollins against Daniel Bryan and Cesaro. And Seth Rollins basically left Jey Uso hanging, and Daniel Bryan and Cesaro beat the crap out of Jey Uso. Called out Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns didn't come. They kept beating the crap out of Jey Uso.
Did Roman ever come out?
Not till the very end.
What did he do when he came out?
He challenged Daniel Bryan for next week.
So he didn't actually hurt anybody.
No. Didn't lay a finger on anybody.
So, okay. So basically I didn't miss much by not seeing that.
That's correct.
So anything with Roman Reigns right now is my high spot. And so anything to do with him is going to be what I say is the high spot. A high spot could also be, depending on where they go with it, that now Seth Rollins has a little bit of interaction with Roman Reigns, even though they don't do anything with it. Right. But my turd sandwich was that Roman didn't come out and help Jey Uso. And you have the announcers and you have Brian on the mic saying, well, look at him. Basically, he's a big wuss. He's not coming out here. Jey always helps him, but here we've got him almost dead and there's no Roman. That just looked bad, man. Talk about rubbing me the wrong way. I did not like that.
My turd sandwich for this week, I've actually got two, if you'll indulge me on both of these.
Okay.
Number one is we always praise SmackDown for having good matches, good stories. Clearly, they're the more intriguing brand of the two. But why on earth would you have Tamina and Nia Jax in a one-on-one match?
That was terrible.
Why? Just why? Why? So that's one turd sandwich. My second turd sandwich is Kyle O'Reilly. And here is why. Andy and I talked about this last week. Jason and I actually talked about this as well on the NXT TakeOver recap show. Kyle O'Reilly can't decide if he's a ripoff of Ronda Rousey or Orange Cassidy. Last week on NXT, he comes out in his casual wear, and he's got the jean jacket and the jeans and this fedora and sunglasses, and he's acting like Orange Cassidy, okay? Then he comes out for his match, and he's got this martial arts gear. He's got this hood on. He's doing this kind of thing, It's like, what are you? You have to be like one or the other. So, it's really rubbing me the wrong way, because it's like he's two different characters. I'm okay with either character. Just please pick one. So that's where I'm at on those. My high spot this week is anything and everything Cameron Grimes. He is legit, probably my new favorite wrestler. He is a fantastic promo. Over the last several weeks, including NXT TakeOver, he has proven that he is great in the ring. If you add Ted DiBiase to this mix, like the rumor is, I'm telling you, this guy, you can, in the words of Cameron Grimes, you can take it to the moon. I love this guy. I love it. I think he's great.
And he sounds like me. Like me and him could probably have a conversation and completely understand each other.
Cameron Grimes. I love it. And I love the fact that while he was injured, he actually went and invested in GameStop. Like when they had the whole big GameStop blow up or whatever, he actually did that and actually made money, and they worked it into the storyline. Like it literally is fantastic. I love it. It's great storytelling, man. Anything else you want to get ready to add? I'm gonna talk about our interview here in just a second. I'll give you the opportunity after I talk about this, ladies and gentlemen. As we wrap up the Pipe Bomb Wrestling podcast, the next 2 Mondays are going to be absolutely incredible. I've talked about a working relationship. Jared mentioned it earlier. Coastal Championship Wrestling, CCW. I've gotten to know some of those guys very well. So over the next 2 Mondays, we are going to bring you some interviews with some guys affiliated with CCW. This company is based out of Florida. They've been running shows through the pandemic, just really working their tails off. And you go check out their YouTube channel, Coastal Championship Wrestling, CCW Alive, every Tuesday night. They have just some great wrestling. I highly recommend it. I also recommend making sure that you tune in this coming Monday to the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast, because the blue chip, Bo Tavian, is going to be our special guest. Jared's grinning from ear to ear. Man, tell them what they are going to get with this Bo Tavian interview.
Man, it was just so fun because the wrestlers that I've talked to and interacted with in the past, it's just been a different dynamic. Like Kevin Sullivan, I used to see him in Florida, talk to him a little bit. Jericho, we've seen him. We've had conversations with him, talked a little bit, and all that. But man, this dude's just like one of us. I mean, it's sit there telling stories. I just felt like, you're sitting like, me and him talked about weightlifting and stuff some, and you were completely out. I think you were in the dark on that. You couldn't care less. But I mean, it was like you're sitting at the gym just talking to one of your buddies, and okay, so you're a wrestler, you promote, you run some shows. So I mean, how is that? And it was just a really fun interview. The interaction with him, he's a cool guy, and I had a good time, and I think that anybody who listens to it will learn some about wrestling. I did.
Yep.
I tried to ask the questions that if I was watching a podcast or listening to a podcast that I would want somebody to ask. Why aren't they asking this guy that?
Yep.
And so it was just fun, man. And I think everybody will enjoy it.
Absolutely. I think so too. So do yourself a favor, throw it in your Google machine, Bo Tavian. Make sure you check it out on YouTube. He's got several matches on the CCW live shows. Get ready for this interview on Monday because it is going to be a blast. Like I said at the top of the show, Jared and I have already recorded this. We had a blast. We cannot put it over enough. Bo Tavian, such a fantastic guy. Make sure that you, if you're watching on YouTube, you're going to get to watch us interact. So make sure that you subscribe wherever you find your podcast and on YouTube to make sure that you get that show. And then the following Monday, Nelly Okomo, the promoter owner of CCW, he is going to be joining us the following Monday. So Bo says he can talk about all kinds of old school wrestling stuff. You all know that Jared and I love our old school wrestling. So we're going to talk a lot about CCW, and we're going to talk some old school stuff. If you're in the Nashville area and you're listening to the show, May 15th is Lucha Mania 2, put on by CCW. ECW legend, Super Crazy, is going to be at this show. It's going to be a fantastic time. I am pumped. I'm going to be there. But for the next 2 Mondays, we're going to have some great interviews on this show. Really happy to be working with those guys. Jared, it's time to put a bow, if you will, on this week's episode. Look at that.
Wow.
At that.
And just so everybody knows, this shirt is not blue. This is a greenish shirt. I just wanted everybody to know that I'm not wearing blue. I'm not a fan of this man. Just so everybody knows that.
Just so that Bo knows, right?
Yeah, just so Bo knows.
So Bo knows. All right, man. We give the old Larry Sabisco wave. We sign off here on the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. For Jared Justice, I'm Chris Belcher. Thanks so much for checking us out again this week. We will catch you guys down the road.